Hello there and welcome to ZeroXP. We are a show that sits down twice a month and talks about games, and particularly one game series, Fable. I'm John and I'm sitting here with my co-host who might be kind of clear because, well, he ghosted us for a few weeks, Patrick.
Hello.
You can find us across all major podcast services, and if we're not on the podcast service of your choice, please let us know. You can also find each one of our episodes with an enhanced video version on YouTube just by searching for ZeroXP Webcast.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I respond to all of them.
And if you want to talk to us directly, you can by looking for us at ZeroXP Webcast on Twitter and ZeroXP Podcast at gmail.com. We're all about having conversations, whether it concerns Fable or video games, so we look forward to hearing from you. On today's show, we're going to be revisiting our conversation about the Xbox Pope and his custom controllers, because you can buy a couple of them now. We're going to tell you where you can find those. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into a game that has a Fable pedigree called Kenseed. It's pretty cool. We want you to check it out. And then we're going to get back into Fable and talk about Whisper and the end of her story, as well as we're going to get into Jack of Blades. So we won't get too in depth with it here, but we did want to bring up the Xbox Pope, who we talked about on our last show, where we talked about how he's doing mock-ups for different podcasts and different game series and franchises. I think he did, different sports teams as well.
Even foods.
Yeah, yeah. He recently did one for DiGiorno. Did you see that?
Yeah, and he got a follow from them.
I mean, he's blowing up, but what we wanted to bring attention to actually is, a lot of people want his stuff. I want his stuff, especially, that Fable controller, right? But he's released some original controllers, which you can actually buy, and you can do that by going to popeart.com, which is his personal site, and you can see each model of the controller, and some of them, are outstanding. If you are somebody who is just gung-ho for Cyberpunk, you need to check out his Cyberpunk controller.
That's my favorite controller.
Oh, it is downright gorgeous. It looks like it should be licensed, but it's just Cyberpunk inspired, to be clear. You can also find his different controllers through the store site that he's using, which is customcontrollers.com, and that's custom with a K, controllers with a K, and a Z at the end of controllers. There's actually quite a few different custom controllers from different artists on there, but specifically he has a set that he's released, and they are all limited edition.
And that Cyberpunk-inspired one is called Coder, by the way.
Yep, yeah, but look at all of them. They're really, really great styles.
I'm a big fan of Contract as well. That's the purple one?
Yep, yeah. And Perfection, is it Perfection, the one that has the stripes on it with the blue?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that one.
Kind of reminds me of the Minnesota Vikings a little bit, but...
Really? See, I went Twins.
Really?
Yeah, and we're not a Minnesota family, so that's kind of funny that's how that played out. Anyways, definitely go check out his stuff. Like I said, look for him on Instagram. I know he's been posting a lot more of his art there. He's still on Twitter at Xbox Pope. The guy is just incredibly talented, and we want to bring him all the attention we can.
Fast. It's not like, every few weeks you get a new console. It feels like daily anymore.
Yeah. I don't know how he has that much artistic movement within his brain, but good for him. And then Patrick's going to take us into our next segment because he was able to get quite a bit of information from the team at Pixel Count Studios, and we're going to tell you all about Kenseed. We mentioned it on the last show, but we really, really wanted to bring it forward and shed some light on it.
Yep. I'm going to try and not repeat too much. I got plenty of information here. Kenseed was born from the ashes of Lionhead Studio, and ever since that first emergence from the Hollowed Embers, we've toiled away with trying to make something memorable. It's a 2D open-world sandbox RPG where everyone ages and dies. Kenseed has been under development for a few years now, and has had many updates following its successful Kickstarter. Kenseed is the passion project of a tiny but experienced studio of designers and artists who spent aeons working on the Fable series at Lionhead Studios. Drawing on those multiple decades of experience, we now can create an interesting and long-lasting title filled with charm and brave ideas. One of the most interesting, maybe the most interesting feature in Kenseed is that everything ages and dies and leaves on a legacy. That includes your character, other NPCs, animals, I believe even creatures that you fight. They age and die and have kids, and they live on, and their family lineage lives on. I think that's pretty crazy. It's kind of something I actually wanted to see after Fable 2. I thought it'd be interesting, even though Fable 3 didn't take place over a long time, but like if the kids got old.
Well, and I think that this was part of why we wanted to bring it up on the show. I mean, not only because couple of the guys that are creating the game, came from Lionhead, but also because it still has some of that, almost Fable-ish bloodline within the game.
Exactly.
I know that one of the things that they discussed, I want to say with Fable 2, and it may have been before then, so forgive me if it actually started with, the original Fable, but was they had discussed the lineage idea of when your character died, that, your son would take over.
Yeah, I think that's how they were going to use...
it was actually Fable, wasn't it?
I wanted to say it was Fable 2.
Okay,
but I could be wrong. Let us know if you know the exact answer. But yeah, I thought it was because in Fable 2 you could have, even though I guess they did plan it in Fable 1, but you could have kids, and during playtesting, people kept on basically harvesting
they were farming kids
for extra lives.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe it was Fable 2 then. Yeah.
Sounds like Kenseed might encourage that behavior.
Well, I don't know if you designate the family member that takes over.
Yeah, you do.
But okay, that's what I thought.
You choose which one takes over, and last I knew, basically, well, we'll get into it a little bit later, but you can use your family in multiple ways to help you succeed in the game.
If you like town simulations, like, what would you say, Stardew Valley a little bit?
Yeah.
In games like that, there are those elements there. You can take over shops and talk to all the townsfolk, and you can go off an adventure. There's so much you can do within the game, and we'll get into a little bit of the specifics just because we do want to bring such attention to it. But, just to kind of give you an idea, and this would be a great spot to actually, if you're listening to this, check out our YouTube page, because Patrick was able to get quite a bit of B-roll.
Yeah, about 10 minutes worth.
Yeah,
I don't know. Depending on how long this conversation, we might play it all, but I'll put a link in below where you can watch it for yourself if you want to.
Yeah, because once you see it, it's brilliant what they've been able to do with it.
Yeah. And things really carry over in this society because the world reacts and remembers you, which is a very Fable feature. One thing I always liked about the Fable games is that they had their own personalities. They had likes, dislikes. You could separate a person from the pack and torture them, and while everyone would love you, that one person would specifically hate you.
Did you do that?
I did it once to test out the feature. Well, also, though, there were those moments where maybe you accidentally killed somebody and didn't go back, didn't immediately quit the game, and they remember you killed that person.
I kicked a kid in Bowerstone, and he never let me live it down, but I didn't realize you could take someone out and just torment them.
But the way that you act with that character, some of these moods and behaviors can translate down to your kin.
Oh, so like Family Feuds.
Yeah, and apparently the kids remember what the adults did. So I think it's interesting that your parents, the way they behave, it'll be remembered.
Yeah, no, that's really great.
Yeah.
I guess I should point out that I haven't messed around with many of the most recent builds. I kickstarted it at the beginning and followed it for a very long time, but life gets in the way, and you only have so much time for games.
Yeah, and I don't really have much as far as a PC right at this moment, so I haven't gotten to play in a few updates either. But I've watched a few videos over time to try to keep up with it a bit.
Well, and that's the important part to bring up, is it is constantly evolving. It's almost every time you turn around, they're adding features or testing features or doing different things.
Yeah, they're up to about 24 regions at this point, and they're beautiful, and they all have, they have seasons in this game, so they change up from time to time. And one thing with Kenseed that I know Fable fans will love is we've talked about it many times on this podcast, you do not get that British personality or sense of humor very much in games. And this one, is all in with its terrible puns.
Yeah,
and jokes.
Yeah, with terrible. I was
they're
going with
they're
the,
terrible.
The
they
lore
know they're
in
terrible.
my head. I didn't know you were going for jokes. Yes, yeah. It definitely has that British humor.
Yeah,
in
and some of them, I mean, like, it kind of goes more along that lines of where you slightly chuckle and you're like, my goodness, they put that in there. But you love it.
I'm a big fan of puns, though.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
same
right
here.
up there for me.
I think there was one joke that stuck out in my head that's made me laugh multiple times, where it's like, an apple a day keeps the doctor away when you collect an apple, and they're like, he may be allergic to them. Once again, makes you shake your head, but you love it.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh my gosh.
Dad joke level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I love is that throughout the year it'll have many different festivals, which I always kind of wanted to see in Fable and would hope to see something in the next one where maybe there's a fair in town or just different events, because you have a family, but there's not a lot of ways to interact with them, I would say, in the Fable series.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved the idea of it, but it was fairly limited in the way that you could go and, you use your emotes and things like that. And I think in Fable 3, they let you hug your kid, which I always appreciated. But,
Yeah.
I don't think they fully got to realize exactly what they were wanting to achieve with that.
And Kenseed, there will be different events throughout the year. One of them, I believe it's a fall festival. There will be, like, the only time you can interact with it, there's pig racing.
Yep.
It's a very pig-oriented festival, I guess. And then there will be, like, special market items and different things. And I always liked that in Stardew Valley. They'd have these special events every year, and sometimes they didn't go your way that first year. And then as you level up or experience up or learn what you did wrong, you could collect more stuff the next year.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some of that going on with this game as well.
Well, I think it also kind of scratches that itch that people loved about Animal Crossing, which we all know has been huge this year. So, I mean, that's, I guess, another tie-in that people might find it similar to, at least in some aspects, but with a lot more adventure and depth to it.
Yep. And the game really makes you explore and test things, is one thing that I kind of find hilarious, and on one occasion sad, because you get these apples and they're called gassy apples. I mean there's all kinds of weird versions of food and different things in this game, and there was once a test to figure out how to get pork in the game that they were trying to get fans, and I figured it out, and it made me feel horrible because I fed it to a pig, and the pig inflated, which you can actually use to ride up to get to certain areas that you couldn't usually get to.
Basically becomes a balloon.
Yeah, basically. And I shot it with a slingshot, and I got pork, and I feel bad. I feel bad about what I did.
You feel bad about exploding a pig, but taking some guy out in the middle of nowhere and torturing him in Fable is okay.
But the pigs are cute in this game, though.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree that would probably make me feel worse. Yeah, it's kind of like, when someone kicks your dog in Fable, you still get really mad even though it's virtual dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, that's why I hate the people of Bloodstone, because that's where they tend to kick my dog.
Get them.
But there's a lot of things, if you explore, if you experiment, you can find. There's lots of hidden statue kind of things that will open up if you do certain things. I'm not going to try and give too much away, but which I love. I love looking at every nook and cranny of a game.
Yeah,
basically, like,
it
what's
encourages you to be curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you find everything, is by being curious, looking around, and experimenting in the game. And I love, like, all the layers, because it seems like a simple game at the surface, but it's very deep when you really dive into.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier, you can actually own shops and businesses in the game, kind of like you could with Fable. That's still in the current build?
I mean, and you can actually work them too, which is a big plus. They have blacksmithing, a tavern, apothecary, and a goods store, which the goods store is the one I'm kind of excited about, that you can collect different items or make different items and sell them.
Did you ever play Moonlighter?
No.
Okay, so Moonlighter was a roguelite game, I guess I would say, where basically you ran a goods store during the day, and then at night you would go actually an adventure and bring items back to your store and sell them.
So I will play that.
Yeah, and it was kind of a much lighter version of this idea.
Yeah.
And it worth checking out too. But
and this is another benefit of having a family is you can make your kids work these stores.
Do you pay them wages?
I don't know. I wouldn't.
Well, I guess Kenseed doesn't have child labor laws yet.
Nope. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the features I'm really excited about, because I even liked a game called Shopkeep where everyone else goes out adventuring and you run the shop and they come in and buy things. I played that on Steam years ago, and I mean, I think that I love games where it seems like this could almost be multiple games in one.
Yeah,
like you can go off any one direction,
and you can play it any way that you want to play.
Yeah, like I don't know that you necessarily ever have to go and fight anything. You can just run shops.
Yep, and just live. I mean, and that's kind of I think the thing that appeals to me about it is it literally is like playing multiple games or almost sequels to games within one game, because you can have one of your lives that you're living be somebody who's completely just, a business person, and then the next person be somebody who's more adventurous, or then somebody who, sticks around and scavenges and is almost homeless.
Yeah, I mean, you can really give them their own personalities, and father isn't like son.
Yeah.
Maybe father wanted to go out and brutally kill everything possible, and son's like, I'm just gonna run this goods store.
Yeah. Or hang out in the tavern a little too much.
Yeah. Because my dad was awful.
Yeah. You give your character daddy issues.
Yep.
No, but it really is. It's a very, very cool game.
And I talked a little bit with the creator of the game, co-creator, Charlie Edwards, who worked on every Fable game. He was at Linehead from nearly the beginning.
Yeah, chances are some of your favorite level designs and demon doors came from Charlie.
Yeah. Oh, I think most of my favorite demon doors came from him, just through the different conversations we had. I asked him if he could shed a few details on maybe some things that could get Fable fans excited. And he gave a few examples, but it sounds like to me it's going to have a lot of Easter eggs to Fable, which, nostalgia, yes. He gave me a couple, like apparently the trader speaks like Murgo, and some of the gnomes reference the Brightwall gnomes, which I'm pretty interested in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I know just from talking to him in the past, there's going to be a lot more Easter eggs, because I don't have the exact quote, because this was many years ago and the Linehead forums are dead since then, but he once told me that as a developer, if it was up to him, which now he's in charge, that his games would have more Easter eggs than a Tesco in November, which I don't understand that reference, but I've been told it's a lot. It's a very British reference.
Yeah, because we have no context for that.
No.
So we're just going to assume it's a lot.
Yeah. I was told it was a lot at the time, yeah. Before we get into our Fable discussion, we're just going to remind you that you can buy this for about $10 if you live in the U.S., at goodoldgames.com and on Steam. It's still in early access, but like we said, there's been a lot of updates so far.
Yep, and that's Kynseed by Pixel Count Studios. So where we last left off, we left with our hero standing with the Jack Blades, looking at a statue of what was his mother. We find out that Scarlet Robe, the hero of Oakvale, or Chicken Chase, or whatever you want to call him, his mom was a former hero, which we didn't know until now. And our hero, I guess it finally dawns on him, her story, or at least that she was a bigger deal than maybe he realized, because we get a little bit of flashback told through the murals from the Heroes Guild, where it's essentially the hero's father, Brahm, was a woodcutter, and she was a hero who was renowned for taking out Balverines in the Witchwood area and Knothole Glade and such. And she had gotten in a little over her head during a battle. in which case she was gravely wounded. When that happened, Brahm found her, the woodcutter, and, nursed her back to health, at which they fell in love and then decided to, I don't know, I guess move to Oakvale and start a family. And again, she's known as Scarlet Robe. Now, while that's... why that's significant is, again, we talk about all the time how the thing that made Fable unique was it had a fairy tale aspect to it. And if you look at it loosely, what you're essentially getting is the story of Little Red Riding Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I absolutely love about, Fable. And I feel like it kind of lost it in some of the later games.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm hoping that, whatever Playground does, that they'll lean back that way. But that may just be me.
Nope.
So, it's through that we kind of, we have a couple of events that happen here, and one kind of sets up what we'll talk about in our next show, but we run into Thunder and Lady Gray, Lady Elvira Gray, who is the mayor of Bowerstone North.
Yep.
And they're having, would you say, maybe a little bit of a lover's quarrel?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, where Thunder's maybe not getting all the attention he thinks he deserves from her. And he's not happy because guess who's getting that attention?
Me. My character.
Exactly. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the next episode. We really just kind of wanted to...
Worth noting, he can be mad for multiple reasons. Also, maybe you just killed Whisper, and he's like, that's not cool.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, because in my game I didn't, so that was a thing. And that's, it sets up a lot. To me, it's almost like this is the moment where the second half of the game gets set up personally, because it's just everything that spews out of there is it flows from this event. You meet Jack of Blades personally. He talks to you a little bit about your lineage, and he gives you the champion seal from winning the arena. And that's going to come into play later. But we wanted to backtrack a little bit because we covered this early in our episodes. But this is Jack of Blades, right? Yes. Jack of Blades, who everybody adores and loves. He's just the greatest guy in Albion, right?
Yep, nothing in his background.
Nothing at all.
Nope.
No, I mean, it's funny because it's, obviously your hero doesn't know him. And I think that's probably a signal of what's going on with the continent as a whole, or all of Albion anyways. That enough time has probably passed that it's just no one remembers.
Yeah.
But
either that or, like real history, they just kind of sugar-coated over time.
And that could be a thing. Things twist, tales change, people get the facts wrong, or those maybe somewhere somebody won some sort of battle that decided that they wanted to tell the story from a different perspective.
Yep.
But this is the same Jack of Blades, kind of, that was responsible for basically bringing all of Albion to its knees during the Old Kingdom reign. We had basically the court at the time, as we talked about, caused people to go insane. They starved them, they flooded them, they turned family against family. And this is, Jack of Blades, who was pretty well responsible for the events that happened that kind of set all of Fable into motion, because it was his battle with William Black, who would become the Archon. And it was his bloodline, who you are part of, which you find out a little bit later, that pretty well is this running thread through all of Albion's history. So I guess the speculation would be, why is Jack back now? What is he trying to do? Is he a friend or is he a foe at this point?
They seem to think friend.
They do, but I don't trust him.
No.
I don't know why anybody would, but then again, gap in time could do a lot of things.
The thing is, though, we really don't fully know how people feel about the Old Kingdom. Do they hate it? I don't remember it being too clearly described. I mean, Jack of Blades could be a hero to them, even though he did bad things, but the Old Kingdom wasn't fully good either.
That's true, yeah. I mean, they talk about the children of William Black, the Archon, who they were evil. They got bored.
Yeah.
So they tortured people and pretty well just did whatever they wanted to control them as well. That's a really good point, because if there's that kind of gap in history, you know how things get twisted.
Yeah.
Even just, I mean, it's like the telephone game from a very large scale, where it ends in Purple Monkey Dishwasher by the end of it, and all of a sudden the court might have been these good beings who were trying to take out the evil.
I'm not going to fully get into real world history, but there is some significance there where there are people that were terrible, but it's like, yeah, they did a few terrible things, but they did it for good for us, and maybe that's how they view Jack of Blades.
Oh, I like that. I think that's good. I'm you know, I mean, we don't have any official canon, so I think I'm going to make that my head canon from now on, because that makes a perfect explanation of why people still know who he is, why he's famous.
Maybe he did a few bad things, but more good in their mind.
Right, yeah. Again, he was the one trying to take down the evil tyranny.
The lesser of two evils.
Exactly. Ew. But I mean, there's going to be a lot more Jack coming up, obviously, because let's just put it out there. He's the antagonist of the game.
Yeah.
And there's so much lore and so much to speculate on, and we do have a little bit of information that we want to share when we get into it. But I'd like to wait until we get to more of the material to really kind of start getting into the depths of Jack of Blades.
Yeah, there's plenty more story there.
Yeah, a lot more. So we're running short on time, but we did want to take the rest of the episode to look back at Whisper and wrap up her story, because obviously if you killed her in the arena, it ended there. But if it didn't, a lot of people miss kind of I don't want to call it an Easter egg, but kind of like a send-off for the character.
Yeah.
Obviously, Whisper was a character that we've known since we were kids, and you know, she grows up with you. She's your rival. She's constantly trying to be better than you. And a lot of people end up rubbed the wrong way by her. I personally just looked at it as a good, almost like sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
you were similar age. You went through the guild at the same time. You trained together.
Yeah. And as we discussed on the last show, when presented with the idea of killing you, she tells you she won't do it.
Yeah.
That she wants to put on a good show.
Which was the reason why I don't understand why she's hated so much.
You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I also disagree with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I like Whisper. And if you do let her live, which I would assume most people do, there is almost like an epilogue for the character if you go back to Oakvale. And one of the things I forget to do from time to time is go into the pubs in the game, because sometimes things are happening with some of the characters, and if you don't go to the pubs, you never know that they're happening. And she is one of those characters. So when you meet her there, she basically tells you that you're the better hero, that you've always been the better hero, and she values your friendship. She's going to leave Albion and return to the Southern Islands, which is where she originated from, even though she left when she was a baby. Assuming that your relationship is good with her, you find out from the Oracle later in the game that she is the hero of the Southern Islands. She becomes the, celebrity, I guess, of that area. She's celebrated, and she's looked at as being something really significant, which I think is something that she wanted to achieve, in Albion, that just she was always in your shadow, and I think that's why people
and by extension her brother's shadow too.
Exactly. So she kind of broke out into her own and got to be herself. But she was attacked on the way home to the island, which we find out from the Oracle, by pirates, and she managed to kill them all, kind of setting into motion her triumphant return home. But there is one Easter egg that I didn't know about, and I had just read about this recently. If you hit her while she's in the tavern in Oakvale, she basically will tell you that she thought that maybe you let her live out of kindness, but it must be that you really just wanted her to live out her life in shame. No. Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that.
Didn't. No, I guess I never really thought to hit her in the tavern and see what happened.
I mean, if you let her live, I'm assuming you're playing through, at least in a neutral or good playthrough.
But so. I guess I can see it. I mean, if you're continuing to belittle her or something afterward, wow.
Like, that's terrible.
No, I did not know that at all.
That was pretty interesting.
That's great.
I mean, somebody had to find that out at least on accident, right? My bad.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it for Whisper, with the exception in Fable 2, which I know we're not into yet. But in Fable 2, on occasion, you can hear the little kids playing, and they'll say things that reference the first game. I think there's a couple references to Jack of Blades and whatnot, but you'll hear kids ask if someone will read them the story of Whisper. So I'm assuming that she goes on to have some pretty great legends, and adventures of her own. I like Whisper. I think she was a great character.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, I mean, I was actually kind of sad. Even, I guess you could say you had it a little bit in the arena, but I guess I would have liked one tag team mission there at the end before her send off,
cool. Like a last adventure together.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that would have been great if they ever do a full remake or something.
I don't think we'll get that at this point.
No, we won't.
It's a nice thought.
Yeah, I thought it would have been cool to kind of she's leaving. You have one good adventure together, leave on good terms. Maybe people would have liked her more. I don't know.
Yeah. Team Whisper.
Yep.
So before we get out of here, I guess we should make note that xCloud launched on the Xbox service. I assume that if you're listening to this show, you're probably fairly Xbox centric.
Yeah.
Have you messed around with it at all, Patrick?
Yeah, I've messed around with it a little bit. I learned I needed to get a new Wi-Fi adapter because mine stunk, but after I replaced that, it runs pretty well. I mean, it's not perfect. I haven't really tested it out in public yet, but it's a nice addition to Game Pass.
I was disappointed to find out that Fable is not one of the titles available to use with xCloud.
Yeah, I don't think any of the BC titles, backward compatible titles, are available on there.
But hopefully that'll happen over time.
I'm really hoping that changes because granted, yes, as long as they don't ditch the service, we'll have on-the-go Fable eventually, but I want all the Fables on the go.
Exactly. Yeah.
To be able to sit on my couch while, my family watches the TV and different things. I mean, why not want more accessibility?
Yep, exactly. But you can remotely play off of your Xbox right now and play Fable technically on the go on your couch.
Yeah, I haven't tested that out yet.
I haven't either, and if I get time this week, I'll take a little bit of footage and insert it here for the video so you can kind of get an idea what that looks like.
Before we go, we would like to thank those who helped contribute to the show. The ZeroXP logo was provided by Jameson Johns. You can find him at behance.net/Jameson Johns. Music by Odd Reference. You can find them at facebook.com/odd.reference. You can find us on Twitter at ZeroXP Podcast, or feel free to email us at zeroxppodcast@gmail.com. If you are on the YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I respond to all of them. You can find us on most major podcasting sites. If there's one we're not available on, let us know.
And before we go, we'd like to give a quick thanks to those who have helped inspire this show. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Xbox Pope. And until next time, just stay safe out there. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye.
Team Whisper.
Bye-bye.